The massive space station hung in orbit around Kepler Prime like a metal moon. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its many ports. Inside the main council chamber, hundreds of beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows of seats. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles instead of legs. A few glowed with their own light, while others wore breathing masks to survive in the station's atmosphere. Ambassador Zarthik stood at the center of the chamber. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights as his 4 arms moved in wide gestures. Behind him, a huge screen showed grainy images of dark ships moving through space. The ships looked different from anything the council had seen before. They were thick and heavy, covered in armor plating and bristling with unknown devices. "The humans are coming," Zarthik announced. His voice carried easily through the chamber's translation system. Every word was converted into the native language. Of each species present, our scouts have tracked them for months. They have taken 42 star systems in less than 20 years. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. The Krinter representatives clicked their mandibles in alarm. Their insect-like heads turned toward each other as they whispered in their clicking language. The massive Borthel delegates shifted. In their reinforced seats, their rocky skin grinding together like stones, the screen changed to show intercepted communications. Lines of text scrolled past in human writing, with translations appearing below. The words made the alien delegates lean forward in their seats. Target acquired. Preparing for strategic elimination. Acceptable losses calculated at 30%. Resistance will be neutralized using standard protocols. Deployment of hunting packs authorized. Zarthik let the words sink in before continuing. These are not the communications of explorers or traders. These are the words of conquerors. Professional killers who speak of death as easily as we speak of the weather. The screen switched to video footage. Tall figures in dark armor moved through what looked like the ruins of a city. Their faces were hidden behind reflective helmets. They moved in perfect coordination, like a single organism with many bodies. In their hands they carried weapons that gleamed with an evil light. "They come from a world they call Earth," Zarthik continued. "Our xenobiologists have analyzed the data. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity alone would crush most of us. The atmosphere burns with reactive gases. Deadly radiation bombards the surface daily. Yet these humans not only survive there, they thrive." He paused to let his 4 arms spread wide. "What kind of beings evolve on a world that kills everything else? What kind of species learns to hunt and kill before they learn to think?" In the audience, the Etherian delegate raised one of her delicate hands. Her people were known for their peaceful nature and their ability to communicate through gentle telepathy. "Perhaps we should try to understand them before we judge them," she suggested in her musical voice. Zarthik's eyes narrowed. "Understand them? We have tried. Every probe we send is either destroyed or goes silent. Every attempt at communication is met with demands for surrender or threats of violence. They do not wish to be understood. They wish to conquer." The screen now showed human settlements on various worlds. To the aliens watching, they looked like military bases. Thick walls surrounded clusters of geometric buildings. Guard towers rose at regular intervals. Everything was built for war. "Look at their cities." Zarthik pointed at the screen. "No. Gardens, no art, no beauty, only fortifications and weapons. They build like a species that expects constant attack because they are always attacking others." More footage played. Humans engaged in what their files called training exercises. To alien eyes, it looked like preparation for planetary conquest. Humans in armor stormed buildings, practiced fighting in groups, and rehearsed what appeared to be the capture of civilian populations. The elderly Zerethian delegate spoke up from his hover chair. His species had long tentacles instead of arms, and eyes that could see in spectrums invisible to most others. "Our intelligence teams have intercepted more of their transmissions. They speak constantly of something called acceptable casualties. They plan for the deaths of their own people as part of their strategy." "Exactly," Zarthik nodded. "A species that treats its own lives as expendable will show no mercy to others. They are the perfect predator. They hunt in organized groups, they plan for losses, and they never stop until their prey is dead." The council chamber fell silent except for the hum of the air recyclers and the soft whisper of translation devices. On the screen, more human. Ships appeared. They moved through space in tight formations, their dark hulls reflecting no light. To the watching aliens, they looked like schools of predatory fish swimming through an ocean of stars. Far across the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Endeavor. He was tall for a human, with brown hair and steady blue eyes. His uniform was clean and pressed, with the insignia of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps on his chest. Through the main view screen, he could see the stars streaming past as they traveled through hyperspace. "Captain," called Communications Officer Ryan Bell from his station. "We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. It's an official invitation." Jake nodded and walked over to Ryan's console. The young officer had short black hair and wore the same blue uniform as his captain. On his screen, alien symbols scrolled past with English translations appearing below. "They want us to address the full council," Ryan reported. "It says here that they're eager to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." Chief Medical Officer Lisa Carter looked up from her medical reports. She had red hair pulled back in a practical style and green eyes that always seemed to be thinking about her next patient. "That's good news, isn't it? We've been trying to make contact for months." Jake smiled. "It's excellent news. Set course for Kepler Prime, Ryan. Let's go meet our new neighbors." The Endeavor dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Ahead of them, the Galactic Council station grew larger as they approached. Jake had never seen anything like it. The station was easily 10 times the size of any human structure. Thousands of ships from hundreds of worlds filled the space around it. "My God," whispered Lisa, as she joined Jake at the view screen. "Look at all those different designs. Every ship is unique." Ryan's console beeped with an incoming message. "Captain, we're being assigned to docking bay. Bay 94 Delta. They're sending us an escort." 3 sleek ships appeared alongside the Endeavor. They were beautiful in their alien design, with curved hulls that seemed to flow like water. Jake watched them with admiration. "Beautiful ships," he commented. "I wonder what species built them." The docking procedure went smoothly. As the Endeavor settled into its assigned bay, Jake could see alien crews working on the station through the viewports. Some wore environmental suits, others breathed the station's atmosphere directly. All of them stopped their work to stare. "At the human ship, they seem curious about us," Lisa observed. "Of course they are," Jake replied. "We're probably the first humans they've ever seen." What Jake didn't know was that the alien workers weren't staring out of curiosity. They were staring out of fear. To them, the Endeavor looked like a ship built for war. Its thick armor and heavy construction reminded them of the warships in their history books. The humans inside were the stuff of nightmares, evolved predators from a world that killed everything else. As Jake prepared to leave his ship and meet the Galactic Council, thousands of beings across the station prepared for their first encounter with what they believed were the most dangerous killers in the galaxy. Neither side knew that they were about to begin the greatest misunderstanding in galactic history. Jake Morrison walked through the docking tube toward the Galactic Council station. Behind him, Lisa Carter and Ryan Bell followed in their best diplomatic uniforms. The artificial gravity felt slightly different than on Earth ships in the air, carried unfamiliar sense of alien technology and recycled atmosphere. "Remember," Jake said quietly, "we're representing all of humanity today. Let's make a good first impression." They stepped through the airlock into the station proper. The corridor was huge, easily wide enough for 20 humans to walk side by side. Ceilings stretched far above their heads, designed to accommodate the largest species in the galaxy. Alien beings moved past them. But Jake noticed they all seemed to be in a hurry to get away. 2 massive creatures approached them. They looked like walking tanks, with thick armor plating covering their bodies and multiple arms ending in clawed hands. Jake recognized them from the species files as Borthel, one of the galaxy's warrior races. "You are the human delegation," one of them said through a translation device. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Follow us. Do not deviate from the path." Jake nodded politely. "Thank you for the escort. I'm Captain Jake Morrison, representing Earth and the human colonies." The Borthol guard said nothing. In response, they began walking, their heavy footsteps echoing through the corridor. Other aliens they passed pressed themselves against the walls, watching the humans with what Jake thought was curiosity but was actually terror. The council chamber was the largest room Jake had ever seen. Hundreds of beings filled the curved seating areas, representing dozens of different species. The air hummed with translation devices, working overtime to convert the many languages being spoken. Ambassador Zarthik stood at the center of the chamber. His 4 blue arms spread wide as he addressed the assembly. Honored delegates, I present to you the representatives of the species known as humans. Jake stepped forward and gave a polite bow. Honored council members, I am Captain Jake Morrison. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for this opportunity to meet and establish peaceful relations. A murmur ran through the assembly, but it didn't sound welcoming. Jake noticed that many of the delegates were leaning away from him, as if afraid to get too close. Zarthik activated a holographic display. The images from the previous day appeared again, showing human ships and soldiers. Captain Morrison, we have evidence that your species has conquered 42 star systems through military force. How do you explain this aggressive expansion? Jake frowned. I'm sorry, Ambassador, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. Humanity has established colonies on 42 worlds, yes, but they were all uninhabited. We've never conquered anyone. Yet your military communications speak of target acquisition and neutralizing threats. Zarthik continued. Holographic display showed the intercepted human transmissions. These are not the words of peaceful explorers. Ryan Bell stepped forward. Sir, if I may? Those are standard military communications protocols. Every space fleet uses similar terminology for navigation and security procedures. But when Ryan's words were processed through the universal translator, they came out as, these are the standard conquest communications. Every invasion force uses similar terminology for target identification and elimination procedures. The alien delegates gasped and whispered among themselves. Several of the smaller species huddled together in fear. Jake realized something was wrong with the translation, but he didn't understand what. He tried a different approach. Become in peace. Humanity seeks only friendship and mutual cooperation. With all intelligent species, the translator converted his words, we come for domination. Humanity seeks only submission and complete control over all species. The reaction was immediate. Several delegates stood up, their voices rising in alarm. The Krinter representatives clicked their mandibles aggressively. While the peaceful Etherians began to glow with distress patterns, Lisa Carter tried to help. Apps! I can explain our medical practices. Humans believe all life is precious. We have dedicated our science to healing and preserving life across species barriers. What the translator produced was, perhaps I can explain our biological warfare practices. Humans believe all life belongs to us. We have dedicated our science to controlling and harvesting life from other species. One of the Zorethian delegates called out, are you saying you experiment on other species? Lisa looked confused. We study biology to help heal the sick and injured. Human doctors take an oath to do no harm to any living being. The translation came out as, we study biology to identify weaknesses for exploitation. Human warriors take an oath to show no mercy to any living being. The chamber erupted in alarmed voices. Delegates began standing and pointing at the human representatives. Jake could see the situation spiraling out of control, but he didn't understand why Zad Urthek raised his forearms for silence. We have also intercepted your cultural transmissions. Perhaps you can explain these to the council. The holographic display activated, showing a recording from human entertainment broadcasts. The first image was from a football game, with armored players crashing into each other while thousands of spectators cheered. This appears to be some kind of gladiatorial combat, Zerthik announced. Your people gather in massive numbers too, watch others fight, and potentially die for their entertainment. Jake shook his head. No, that's just a sport. It's a game with rules. Nobody gets seriously hurt. But the aliens in the chamber saw humans deliberately colliding with violent force, while crowds screamed for more violence. Two species that had evolved on peaceful worlds with abundant resources. It looked like organized brutality for public amusement. The display changed to show a rock concert. The lead singer screamed into a microphone while the crowd raised their fists and shouted along. The heavy bass made the speakers vibrate with threatening sound. Out, and this appears to be some kind of war chant. Zarthik continued. All your people gather to practice coordinated battle cries. Ryan tried to explain, that's music. It's art. The people are singing along because they enjoy the performance. To the aliens, it looked like thousands of humans practicing synchronized war chants. Their faces twisted with aggressive emotion as they shouted in unison. More cultural footage played. A boxing match looked like ritualized combat training. Horror movie appeared to be a documentary about human hunting techniques. Even a cooking show, with its talk of beating eggs and killing the heat, sounded like instructions for torture when filtered through the translation system. During a brief recess, Jake and his team huddled together near their seats. Something's wrong with the translators, Ryan whispered. Everything we say is coming out backward, Lisa nodded. Did you see their faces when I talked about medical training? They looked terrified. Jake looked around the chamber at the alien delegates. Groups of them stood together, their body language clearly agitated. He caught fragments of translated conversation, ... death world predators, ... hunt in coordinated packs, ... no mercy for their own species, ... ritualized combat training. One group of delegates was looking at tablet displays showing human colony ships to human eyes. The ships looked practical and efficient, but Jake began to see them as the aliens did. Heavily armored vessels, built like mobile fortresses, designed to survive in the harsh vacuum of space around a deadly world. When the session resumed, stood before a formal voting display. The evidence is clear. These humans represent a clear and present danger to galactic civilization. They are apex predators from a death world, trained from birth for conquest and violence. He turned to face Jake directly. Captain Morrison, the Galactic Council hereby classifies humanity as a Category 5 threat species. All human-controlled space will be placed under immediate quarantine. No human vessel will be permitted to leave your territory. Jake stood up, his face showing confusion and growing alarm. Ambassador, please. There's been some kind of mistake. We're not conquerors, we're explorers. We came here hoping to make friends. But the translator turned his words into, Ambassador, please. There's been some kind of resistance. We are not finished conquering. We are advanced scouts. We came here planning to make slaves. The chamber exploded in panic. Delegates began fleeing toward the exits. The Borthel guards moved to surround the human delegation, their weapons powering up with ominous humming sounds. Jake raised his hands peacefully. But even that gesture was misinterpreted. Two species that communicated through tentacle movements or color changes. Raised hands looked like a threat display as alarms began sounding throughout the station and security forces mobilized. Jake realized that first contact with the galactic community had gone disastrously wrong. He just didn't understand how a simple diplomatic meeting had turned into what appeared to be a declaration of war. The last thing he saw before the security shields activated was Ambassador Zarthik speaking urgently into a communication device, probably warning the galaxy that the human invasion had begun. Standing in the middle of the chaos, Jake Morrison knew that his species had just become the most feared beings in galactic history. The worst part was that he had no idea why. Jake Morrison sat in the conference room aboard the Endeavor, staring at the holographic display that showed the Galactic Council station growing smaller as they departed. The meeting had ended with them being escorted back to their ship under heavy guard and ordered to leave immediately. None of it made sense. Run the translations again, Ryan, Jake said. There has to be something we're missing. Ryan Bell worked at his console, replaying the recordings of their diplomatic meeting. His fingers moved quickly across the controls. As he analyzed the translation matrices, Captain, I think I found part of the problem. Look at this. It's on the main screen. Ryan displayed side-by-side translations. On the left was what the humans had actually said. On the right was what the alien translation system had converted their words into. When you said "we come in peace," it translated as "we come for domination," Ryan explained. The system seems to be interpreting our words in the worst possible way. Lisa Carter looked up from her medical scanner readings. It's not just the words, though. Do you see how they reacted when I mentioned surgery? It looked like I was describing torture. Jake rubbed his forehead. What about their accusations? They kept talking about humans conquering worlds and being violent predators. Where would they get ideas like that? Ryan pulled up another display. I've been analyzing the data files they shared with us before the meeting. Captain, they think Earth is what they call a Class 12 death world. A what? According to their classification system, most inhabited worlds in the galaxy are Class 1 through Class 4. Mild climates, low gravity, stable environments. Earth rates as a Class 12. They consider it barely survivable. Lisa moved to look at the data. Show me the details, Ryan. Numbers and charts filled the screen. Earth's gravity was listed as crushing force, lethal to most species. Atmospheric pressure was marked as extreme compression environment. Even Earth's oxygen levels were flagged as highly reactive combustion atmosphere. They think our air is dangerous? Lisa asked. To them, it is, Ryan replied. Most species in the galaxy breathe inert gas mixtures. Our oxygen-rich atmosphere would be like breathing fire to them. Jake studied the information. What about the radiation levels? Earth's star puts out radiation that would kill most galactic species in ours. They think we evolved to survive constant bombardment of deadly energy. The implications began to sink in. Jake walked to the view screen and looked out at the stars. So to them, we're creatures that survived on a world that would kill them, just by being there. That's not all, Captain, Ryan continued. I've been looking at our own cultural broadcasts that they intercepted. Our movies, our sports, our music. Two beings that evolved on peaceful worlds, everything we do looks violent. He brought up examples on the screen. Football game played in slow motion, showing the impacts between players. They see this as combat training. Next came footage from an action movie with explosions and fight scenes. And this looks like documentary footage of human warfare to them. Even a cooking show appeared threatening when the host talked about crushing garlic and beating eggs. Two species that had never needed to process their food aggressively. It sounded like instructions for violence. Lisa shook her head. No wonder they were terrified. From their perspective, we're monsters from a nightmare world who enjoy watching violence and practice fighting for entertainment. The ship's communication system beeped. Ryan answered the call and his face grew serious. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Peterson wants to speak with you immediately. Jake moved to the communication station. Admiral Peterson's weathered face appeared on the screen, his gray hair and stern expression showing the strain of his position. Captain Morrison, what the hell happened out there? Receiving reports that the entire Galactic Council has declared humanity a threat to galactic security. Jake sighed. Sir, there was a massive communication breakdown. Everything we said was misinterpreted. They think we're some kind of aggressive predator species. Predators? Admiral Peterson frowned. We came to them offering friendship and trade agreements. How did they get the idea we're predators? It's complicated, sir. They've been monitoring our transmissions and analyzing our culture. To them, everything about humanity looks like evidence of a warrior species. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Captain, I need you to understand the situation. 3 Galactic Council fleets are moving toward our border systems. They're not coming to talk. Jake felt his stomach drop. They think we're going to invade them, and they're planning to strike first. We have maybe 48 hours before they reach our outer colonies. I'm recalling all diplomatic ships and putting the fleet on high alert. After the communication ended, Jake's team sat in stunned silence. The mission that was supposed to establish peaceful relations with the galaxy had instead started what looked like a war. There has to be something we can do, Lisa said. We can't just let this escalate into violence. Orion was still working at his console. Captain, I might have an idea. What if we could find a way to show them what we're really like? Not through words, but through actions? What do you mean? Well, they think we're predators based on misinterpreted data. But what if we could demonstrate the opposite? Show them that humans are actually protective, not aggressive. Jake considered this. How would we do that? They've already declared us a threat. They're not going to let us near their space. Before Ryan could answer, the ship's sensors began beeping with an urgent alarm. Lisa rushed to the science station to check the readings. Captain, I'm detecting a distress signal. It's coming from the neutral zone, about 6 light-years from here. Jake moved to look at her readings. What kind of signal? It's a passenger liner. The signature matches Luminian design. They're reporting catastrophic system failures and life support emergency.
Well, we're going we'll dry out.
The Luminians are one of the peaceful species in the Council. They're known for their cultural exchanges and educational programs. Distress Signal continued to broadcast its automated message. Over 3,000 civilians were aboard the disabled ship, including families and children. Their life support systems were failing, and they had less than 6 hours of air remaining. Jake stared at the display. Here was exactly the kind of situation Ryan had been talking about. A chance to show the galaxy what humans were really like. Sir, Lisa said quietly, our orders are to return to Earth immediately. We're not supposed to make contact with any alien vessels. Jake nodded. I know what our orders are, Doctor. But he also knew what would happen if they followed those orders. 3,000 innocent civilians would die while humanity ran away to prepare for war. It was exactly the kind of choice that defined what humans really were. Ryan set course. For the distress signal, maximum speed. Sir, if we do this, the Galactic Council will see it as an aggressive act. They'll think we're attacking a civilian vessel. Maybe, Jake replied, or maybe they'll finally see what humans actually do. When people need help, the Endeavour changed course and jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, long-range sensors detected the approaching Galactic Council fleets, moving toward human space with weapons charged and ready for battle. What none of them knew was that aboard the lead Council ship, Admiral Kekstar was studying tactical reports about human capabilities. The humans had just changed course toward a disabled civilian vessel. To the alien commander, it looked like the humans were moving to capture prisoners or hostages. He increased his fleet's speed. If the humans were beginning their invasion by taking civilians, then the war had already started. The galaxy's most feared predators were showing their true nature at last. As both human and alien forces raced toward the disabled Luminian ship, the stage was set for a confrontation that would determine whether the galaxy would find peace or be consumed by the most devastating war in its history. The Luminian passenger liner Spirit of Peace drifted helplessly in the void. Its beautiful curved hull, once gleaming white with artistic patterns painted in blues and greens, now showed the dark scars of multiple system failures. Small explosions flickered along its sides as damaged components overloaded and died inside the ship. Captain Velmara of the Luminian merchant fleet tried to keep calm as she watched her instruments fail one by one. Her people were known throughout the galaxy for their peaceful nature and their love of art and learning. The Spirit of Peace carried over 3,000 civilians returning from a cultural exchange program on distant worlds. Captain, her communications. Officer reported, life support is down to 4 hours. The backup systems are failing faster than our engineers can repair them. Elmara nodded grimly. She had already sent out distress calls. but the nearest Galactic Council ships were too far away to reach them in time. Her passengers trusted her to keep them safe, but she was running out of options. "Keep broadcasting the distress signal," she ordered. "Maybe someone will hear us." Far across space, the Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace near the crippled liner. On the bridge, Jake Morrison studied the sensor readings with growing concern. "How bad is it, Lisa?" he asked. Dr. Lisa Carter worked at the science station. Her medical scanner analyzing the bio readings from the alien ship. "Very bad, Captain. I'm detecting over 3,000 life signs, but their life support is failing rapidly. They have maybe 4 hours before carbon dioxide poisoning kills them all." Jake didn't hesitate. "Ryan, hail them. Let them know we're here to help." Ryan Bell opened a communication channel. "Luminian vessel. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Endeavour. We received your distress call and are here to assist." The response came back immediately. Captain Velmara's voice carried relief and surprise. "Human vessel. We appreciate your offer, but we understand your species has been restricted from contact with Council member species." Captain Jake replied, 3,000 lives are more important than politics. We're coming alongside to render assistance." Aboard the Spirit of Peace, Velmara felt a flutter of fear. Everything the Galactic Council had said about humans being dangerous predators flashed through her mind. But her people were dying, and the humans were the only help available. "Understood. Human vessel. We accept your assistance." The Endeavour moved closer to the damaged liner. In the ship's cargo bay, a rescue team prepared for emergency boarding. The team included Lisa Carter with her medical supplies, Engineering Chief Amy Rodriguez with repair equipment, and Security Officer Dan Mitchell with rescue gear. "Remember," Jake announced over the ship's communication system, "we're dealing with a species that breathes a different atmosphere and has different biological needs. Follow Dr. Carter's lead on all medical issues." Amy Rodriguez studied the technical specifications of Luminian ships. "Captain, their life support systems are completely different from ours. I'll need to adapt our repair techniques to their technology." "Do whatever it takes, Amy. We're not losing anyone today." The rescue team sealed themselves into environmental suits and prepared to transfer to the alien ship. To the human crew, it was a standard emergency response. It moved with practiced efficiency, each person knowing their role, but 2 observers aboard the approaching Galactic Council fleet. It looked very different. Admiral Kextar stood on the bridge of his flagship. Righteous Fury, watching the human rescue operation through long-range sensors. His tactical officer, a nervous Veltar named Sekroth, provided updates. "Admiral, the human vessel has matched course and speed with the civilian liner. They're launching what appears to be boarding pods." Kexter studied the tactical display. The human ship was larger and more heavily armored than the civilian vessel. To his military mind, it looked like a predator attacking helpless prey. "Are there any other human ships in the area?" "Negative, sir. Just the one vessel." "But Admiral, their boarding technique is unlike anything in our tactical databases. They're approaching from multiple angles simultaneously." What Sekroth was seeing was standard human emergency procedure. Multiple rescue teams approached different sections of the damaged ship to maximize their chances of reaching trapped survivors. But to alien military observers, it looked like a coordinated assault. "How long until we reach them?" Kextar asked.
47
"Minutes at current speed, sir. Increase to maximum speed. We need to reach that civilian ship before the humans complete their operation." Aboard the Spirit of Peace, the human rescue team worked frantically to save the failing life support systems. Amy Rodriguez crawled through narrow maintenance tunnels, her tools sparking as she bypassed damaged components and rerouted power. "Systems, Amy to Endeavour," she reported. "I've managed to stabilize the main life support in sections 4 through 8. But the primary recycling plant is completely destroyed. They need a new system." Jake's voice came back immediately. "Do you need?" "I need to install one of our backup atmospheric processors. It's not compatible with their ship design, but I can make it work. I'll need to cut through several bulkheads to route the connections." "Do it." Meanwhile, Dr. Lisa Carter worked in the ship's medical bay. treating injured Luminian passengers. The aliens were tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large, gentle eyes. They watched her with a mixture of fear and amazement as she worked to save their injured friends and family members. A young Luminian child, barely old enough to walk, had been hurt when a support beam fell during the initial system failures. Lisa worked carefully to treat the child's injuries, using her medical scanner to understand the alien physiology. "It's okay," she whispered softly, even though the child couldn't understand her words. "You're going to be fine." The child's parents watched from nearby, their large eyes filled with tears. They had been taught to fear humans as violent predators, but this human was being incredibly gentle with their injured child. Security. Officer Dan Mitchell coordinated the evacuation of the most damaged sections of the ship. He carried elderly Luminians who couldn't walk quickly enough, guided families through smoke-filled corridors, and made sure no one was left behind. "This is Mitchell," he reported. "I've got about 200 civilians in Section 12. The hull is starting to buckle. I need emergency transport." "Understood," Jake replied, bringing the Endeavor closer. "Prepare for emergency beam-out." What the human crew saw as a rescue operation looked very different to the approaching Galactic Council fleet. Their sensors showed humans cutting in two. The alien ship with high-energy tools, moving through the vessel in organized groups, and systematically removing the civilian population. Admiral Sekrath reported, "The humans appear to be extracting the civilians from their ship, or moving them to the human vessel." Kekstar's face hardened. "They're taking prisoners." "As we expected." "Sir, should we attempt to communicate with them?" "No. If we alert them to our presence, they might kill the hostages. We need to get close enough to act." The Admiral was making the same mistake the humans had made at the diplomatic meeting. He was interpreting everything he saw through his own assumptions about human nature. Back aboard the Spirit of Peace, Amy Rodriguez finished installing the emergency life support system. Sparks flew as she connected the final power coupling, and suddenly the ship's air recyclers hummed back to life. "Life support restored," she announced. "This should keep them breathing for at least a week." Dr. Carter had stabilized the most seriously injured passengers and was helping them back to their quarters. The Luminian crew watched in amazement as the humans worked tirelessly to save people they had never met before. Captain Velmara approached Jake. Had come aboard to coordinate the rescue personally. "Captain Morrison? I don't understand." "We were told your people are dangerous predators who show no mercy." Jake looked confused. "Predators? Captain, we're explorers and scientists. We help people. That's what humans do." Before Velmara could respond, Ryan Bell's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain, we have a problem. 3 Galactic Council warships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're moving toward us at high speed with weapons charged." Jake felt his heart sink. The rescue operation had been successful, but it looked like the galaxy's most powerful military force was about to attack them for saving lives. Admiral Kekstar stood ready to order the attack that would begin the war between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. He believed he was about to rescue civilians from dangerous predators. Neither side realized they were seconds away from a battle that would destroy everything both sides actually wanted to protect. Admiral Kekstar stood on the bridge of the Righteous Fury, his finger hovering over the weapons control. The 3 Galactic Council warships had surrounded the human vessel and the disabled Luminian liner. His tactical display showed the humans were still moving civilians between the ships. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the human vessel is hailing us." "Nort," Kekstar ordered. "Predators always try to negotiate when cornered. Charge all weapons and prepare to fire." But before he could give the final order, his ship's sensors detected something unexpected. A massive explosion erupted from the Luminian liner's engine section, sending debris flying in all directions. "Emergency power failure on the civilian vessel," his tactical officer announced. Their remaining life support just went offline completely. Kekstar watched his display in confusion. If the humans were holding the civilians hostage, why would they let the ship's life support fail? The Lumenians aboard that vessel had perhaps minutes to live without immediate help. On the Endeavor's bridge, Jake Morrison saw the same explosion. On his sensors. Amy, what happened over there? Amy Rodriguez's voice crackled over the communication system from aboard the Lumenian ship. Captain, the power coupling I installed just overloaded. The whole ship is losing power. I can fix it. But I need more time. How long? At least 20 minutes. But Captain, without life support, these people don't have 20 minutes. Jake looked at the 3 alien warships surrounding them. Their weapons were charged and ready to fire. Any sudden movement might trigger a battle that would kill everyone. Open a channel to the lead alien ship. I don't care if they want to talk or not. Ryan's hands moved over his console. Channel open, sir. Galactic Council vessels. This is Captain Jake Morrison. We are conducting an emergency rescue operation. Civilian ship's life support has failed completely. These people will die without immediate assistance. Admiral Kekstar heard the transmission and frowned. His universal translator was working perfectly, but the human's words didn't match what his sensors were showing. Tactical, confirmed the status of the civilian vessel. Sir, their life support has indeed failed.
Out.
Bio readings show the civilians have approximately 8 minutes of air remaining. Kekstar stared at his display. If this was a human trick, it was the most elaborate one he had ever seen. The Lumenians were actually dying. Before he could respond, his communications officer spoke up. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission. From the civilian vessel itself. Put it through. Captain Velmara's face appeared on the main screen. Her blue skin had turned pale, and she was clearly struggling to breathe. Admiral Kekstar, the humans have been trying to save my people. They risked their own ship to help us when no one else could reach us in time. Kekstar leaned forward. Captain, are you being held against your will? No, Admiral. The humans have been working for hours to repair our systems. Their doctor has been treating our injured. Their engineer is trying to restore our life support right now. The Admiral looked at his tactical display again. The human ship was indeed docked with the civilian liner, but not in an attack formation. It was in a rescue configuration, with emergency power flowing from the human vessel to the Lumenian ship. Admiral, his sensors officer called out, I'm detecting something else. Human ship is venting atmosphere into the civilian vessel. They're sharing their own air supply. That made no sense if the humans were taking hostages. Why would predators give their own life-sustaining resources to their prisoners?
Ow.
On the Endeavor, Jake made a decision that would change everything. Lisa, take a team over to the Lumenian ship. Bring as many emergency breathing units as we can. Spare, Captain. That will leave us with barely enough air for our own crew if something goes wrong. Do it anyway. We're not letting these people die. Admiral Kekstar watched his sensors as the humans transferred more of their life support resources to the failing alien ship. His tactical officer provided a running commentary. The humans are now sharing their water recycling systems with the civilians. They're transferring medical supplies. They're even moving their own food rations to the alien vessel. Something clicked in Kekstar's mind. He had been a military officer for 30 years, and he had seen many different species in many different situations. He had never seen a predator species share its vital resources with prey. Open a channel to the human vessel, he ordered. Jake's face appeared on the screen. Even through the alien translation system, Kekstar could see the exhaustion and worry in the human's eyes. Captain Morrison, explain your actions. Jake looked directly at the alien admiral. 3,000 people are going to die if we don't help them. That's all the explanation you need. The translation came through clearly this time, without the distortions that had caused so much trouble at the diplomatic meeting. Ryan Bell had been working frantically to fix the communication problems, and his efforts were finally paying off. You are risking your own crew to save strangers, Kekstar said. Yes. Why? Jake paused, trying to find words that would translate properly, because that's what people do for each other. That's what makes us people instead of just animals. Admiral. Kekstar felt something fundamental shift in his understanding. He looked around his bridge at his own crew. Every one of them was watching the human on the screen with new eyes. Stand down weapons, he ordered quietly. Sir? his tactical officer asked in surprise. I said stand down weapons. All ships assume rescue formation. We're going to help. The 3 Galactic Council warships moved into position around the disabled liner. Within minutes, alien engineers were working alongside humans to restore the ship's systems. Kexstar's own medical teams joined Dr. Lisa Carter in treating the injured civilians. Amy Rodriguez found herself working next to a Veltar engineer named Tokamar. Despite the language barrier and completely different technologies, they managed to communicate through universal technical principles. Together, they restored the Luminian ship's main power. Got it, Amy announced as the lights came back on throughout the civilian vessel. Life support is fully operational. Cheer went up from both human and alien rescue workers. For the first time in galactic history, multiple species were working together as a single team. Admiral Kexstar found himself standing next to Jake Morrison in the Luminian ship's main corridor. Around them, humans and aliens worked side by side. To help the civilians, Captain Morrison, the Admiral said, I owe you an apology. People have seriously misunderstood yours. Jake nodded. Admiral, I think we've all been misunderstanding each other. Maybe it's time we fix that. 3 days later, Captain Velmara stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. This time, the chamber was filled with hope instead of fear. Honored delegates, she announced, I have seen the truth about the human species. They are not predators. They are protectors. When my people were dying, they risked everything to save us. They shared their own life support, their food, their medical supplies. They asked for nothing in return except the chance to help. The audience. Jake Morrison sat with Admiral Kexstar and other military leaders who had witnessed the rescue. The universal translators had been recalibrated to prevent the communication errors that had caused so much trouble. Ambassador Zarthik stood at the center of the chamber. But this time, his forearms were spread in a gesture of welcome instead of warning. The Galactic Council hereby rescinds all restrictions on human space travel, he announced. Furthermore, we formally invite humanity to join the Galactic Council as full members, with all the rights and responsibilities that status entails. Jake stood and bowed politely. On behalf of humanity, we accept. We look forward to working with all of you to build a better galaxy for everyone. 1 year later, the Human Emergency Response Corps had become the most respected organization in galactic space. Mixed teams of humans and aliens responded to disasters across the galaxy, saving lives regardless of species or politics. At the Corps' headquarters on Kepler Prime, Admiral Jake Morrison addressed a graduating class of new rescue specialists. The audience included humans, Veltar, Luminians, Borthel, and dozens of other species. When the galaxy first met humanity, he said, they saw us as the most dangerous predators in space. Today I hope they see us as the most dedicated protectors, because that's who we really are. We don't abandon people who need help. We don't leave anyone behind. And we never, ever give up on saving lives. The motto of the Human Emergency Response Corps was displayed on banners throughout the headquarters. No one left behind. The galaxy had learned that their most fearsome species was actually their greatest hope. And humanity had learned that sometimes the best way to make friends is to show them who you really are through your actions, not your words. In the end, the misunderstanding that nearly started a galactic war had created something beautiful. A universe where different species worked together to protect and save each other. The humans had found their place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as the guardians the galaxy never knew it needed.